desperate to change the narrative and the press coverage of the failed Democratic debate, as well as Nancy Botok having to walk back and not actually take a vote on the impeachment inquiry, well, Nancy Pelosi gave her best Emmy-winning performance yet.
I wish you were a politician, Mr. President, then you would know the art of the possible.
Make no mistake, the walkout staged by Nancy Botox Pelosi walking out of a meeting with President Trump regarding the Syria strategy was not about the president's behavior. It was not about his Syria plan. It was about the fact that Nancy Botox Pelosi, number one, does not have the votes to be able to officially go after President Trump on a real impeachment. She was trying to have it both ways. Now, Brit Hume the other day said that she had actually pulled off an incredibly shrewd political ploy by having this inquiry and not voting on it because that protects Democrats in vulnerable Trump districts, but yet allows them to keep up the impeachment drumbeat from now until Election Day. Yeah, Britt, I'm sorry. You may be a senior news analyst and may have been doing this for 150 years along with, Chris Wallace. But have you guys not figured it out in the age of Trump? It is a new day. In the age of the internet and immediate access to information, it's a new day. And the libloons who have birthed so much of the problems that we have in millennials, in Generation Z, namely impatience, intolerance, and wanting their way and to be respected and to have their feelings validated now, they're not going to wait from now until Election Day for a drumbeat of impeachment. Newsflash, Nancy, neither will the Squad, or Al Green, or even Mad Maxine Waters with her really bad James Brown hairdo, who has been screaming, "Impeach 45," since 16 minutes after he took the oath of office to be the President of the United States. And while he was still giving his inaugural address, they were already screaming, "Impeach, impeach, impeach." And then all the girls and their little pink wedge caps, wearing that Krispy Kreme donut hat sideways, took to the streets of D.C. the very next day, screaming and protesting, and "I'm a nasty woman," talking about their wet dream fantasies of blowing up the White House with Trump in it. They're not going to wait until Election Day. So, Nancy, you're not shrewd. Britt, this was not a great ploy because the people won't have the patience for this. They really thought that when she came out and announced the impeachment inquiry, they were going to impeach Trump. And she knows that she can't, that he hasn't actually violated the Constitution. In fact, the transcript, no matter how much the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media and their willing cohorts at places like PMSNBC with Rachel Madcow and Chris with a feeling up his legs Matthews and Anderson Cooper and Don Lemonhead and Brian Humpty Dumpty Stelter over at CNN, the Clinton News Network, the Clown News Network, or as I refer to it as Airport Terminal TV, they don't have the votes to pull this off, and the media, as they have been clamoring for this to happen, they know this is not going to be tolerated. And they can't spin it anymore that the transcript shows that Trump did something wrong. But the evidence is overwhelming what Joe Biden and his son were up to, despite all the denials and ABC News, because we know how credible they are, especially after showing us footage of a gun range in Kentucky and telling us that was Kurds being blown up on the Syrian border. Yeah. So ABC News has its own credibility issues. Hunter Biden didn't do himself any favors. You need to watch that video that I've done. He didn't do himself any favors when he admits that he got the job because of his last name. He admits he had no experience, but then again, neither did anyone else on the board, which is probably why Ukraine was investigating them for fraud when we have Biden, Papa Daddy, on video saying, hey, you fire the guy going after my son, or you're not getting your $1 billion in aid. You got 6 hours to make that happen. And Shazam, Batman, it did. So the American people are tired of being lied to by the media, tired of the spin coming from the Democrats, and now even the progressive liberal wing that just hates Trump, and they've even been trying to bring in people like Ted Cruz. And yes, you heard it here. Ted Cruz is a fraud, a phony, lying Ted. Nothing's changed. Witness protection Romney, picking off some senators that they think would vote for impeachment. Although Romney really is a never Trumper, and he'll vote for impeachment no matter what, Cruz at least has enough of his own political rear end covering. He's keeping the option open. That's why he disagrees with the president on, he really shouldn't have intimidated Ukraine and China to look into the Bidens. After all, American voters decide elections, not foreign entities. Well, duh, Ted. He wasn't asking foreign entities to have their way in our election. He was asking them to look into American citizens operating in the name of the government, in this case, the vice presidency. And if they're putting a shakedown fleece on you, yes, investigate and prosecute. Boom. President's within his constitutional duty to do that. So, they have not got the votes to make this happen. But the progressive loons aren't going to tolerate this. They are not going to see this as a shrewd maneuver by Nancy. I told you in several videos back, she was never ever going to impeach. The way she got so many Democrats to sign on that they're all for this impeachment, it's as concocted and as contrived as Twitter yesterday doing Pronoun Day. They created the original tweet, and then because everybody responded to it, they tried to make it appear that it was this grassroots natural thing that everybody is into Pronoun Day. In other words, if you are a guy but you want to be referred to as a they or them, we need to validate you and have a conversation with you. And you'll forgive me, I don't care if I get fined in New York. I'm going to look at you if you're a dude and go, hey, pal. And if you say, oh, no, I'm a them. No, you're a freak, but I'll call you a pal. But hey, if you want to know what my personal pronouns are, because apparently Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, after climbing to the top of the totem pole, needs to, be even more in touch with the radical fringe loons of this country and to prove that she is, socially in touch, along with Corey grabbing boys in the men's room Booker and the rest of that Democratic ilk, as they put on all of their Twitter profiles now the pronouns they like to be identified by. Why Pocahontas wants to be, squaw, papoose, no, she. Okay, well, she's got that going for her. She knows what gender she is. She has no idea what race or nationality she is, but she does have the gender thing down. Way to go, Liz! Woohoo! Yeah, you're presidential material, baby. Even Pete Buttigieg wants to be identified as he or him. All right, Pete, you're almost there. Now, if we can find you some really good reverse therapy, conversion therapy, we can bring you all the way, and you'll discover the she's and the hers. They're pretty nice, Pete. I'm telling you, you ought to look into it. My personal pronouns, you may call me Sir, Sire, Your Highness, perfect, awesome, incredible, great. Don't worry. Yes, I am a pastor. I'm not conceited, but I am convinced you'll never hurt my ego. It's too big, so don't worry about it, and don't feel guilty for trying. That all said, Nancy Pelosi, so desperate to change the narrative of the fact that she didn't have the votes to make this happen in the House, and she can spin it any way she wants. She doesn't have the votes. And she got the Democrats to sign on by promising them, you'll never have to vote, you'll never have to go on record for this. This way, the Democrats running in, well, Trump-friendly country have cover. Well, we did think that this ought to be investigated, but we never voted to impeach him. She doesn't have the votes. She doesn't want the media talking about it anymore. And she certainly doesn't want the media talking about the horrible, horrific, horrendous debate from Ohio. When you get guys like Trevor Noah over at, the Daily Call or the Call Daily or whatever that mock fake parody news show is, making fun of it, and he's a liberal. When he makes fun of it, Houston, you have a problem.
Joe Biden is the only candidate who remixes his speech while he's giving it. He's just like removing this man from on the 17th, and the fact that.
But again, the debate was so bad. Nancy Pelosi needed a new narrative. She needed people talking about something else. So, what does she do? She storms out of the White House and blames it all on Trump.
Earlier today, the House of Representatives voted, 354 to 60 in opposition to the actions that he has taken in Syria.
He was insulting, particularly to the Speaker. She kept her cool completely, but he called her a third-rate politician. He said that there are communists involved and you guys might like that. I mean, this was not a dialogue. It was sort of a diatribe, a nasty diatribe, not focused on the facts.
He's a madman. He's a lunatic. He can't be in charge of our foreign policy. And of course, that becomes the new news cycle. Isn't it interesting? And nobody in the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media is talking about this, so I will. The very people that are now so hawkish about staying engaged in Syria on the Democratic side. Why, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck E. Cheese Schumers, the Mad Maxine Waters, they were all for Obama's Iraq pullout. So what's changed? Oh, that's right. We hate Orange Man. You know, the amazing thing is if Donald Trump had decided to run and win as a Democrat, they would be carving his face into Mount Rushmore right now as we speak. Actually, that's not original to me. My doctor said that to me today. Good guy. But it's true. It's 100% absolutely true. So, the Republicans who were in that meeting in the White House, yeah, they have a little different take on it. They're not saying that the president wasn't combative with Nancy. Again, Nancy Pelosi and that Democratic ilk, they have accused this president multiple times of treason, colluding with foreign entities, stealing an election, being an illegitimate president. They talk about hounding his staff and following them into restaurants and provoking them and throwing them out and being vile and nasty. In fact, Nancy Pelosi even referred to that as, it's collateral damage. It's collateral damage. What? You come into a room to talk about something and you expect the president all of a sudden to forget all the crapola you've said about him? No. See, it's not politics as usual. See, what they can't handle about Trump, he is an absolute 100% straight shooter. Talk about a guy who actually tells the truth. You may not like it. You may not agree with it. But he's not phony and fraudulent and pretending to get along and doing all the proper discourse and protocol. No. You walk into his office, you walk into the White House, you're on his turf, his territory, you've been saying nasty, vile things about him. Yeah, he's going to let you know what he thinks of you. That said, the Republicans in the room said, gee, it was amazing. When Nancy left, we got a lot of stuff done, even with the Democrats that were there.
I've been in a lot of meetings where individuals get heated with one another. I do not believe in that process that you get up and you walk away. The other Democrats did not walk away. They stayed in the room, and you know what happened when Speaker Pelosi had left the room? It seemed pretty much calmer. It seemed much more productive. It seemed as though when the Speaker was in the room, she was there for one reason and one reason only. And that's really unbecoming of a Speaker.
So after a sucky debate performance, after the fact Nancy couldn't pull off the House vote to officially really make it a legitimate impeachment inquiry, which, by the way, when there was the process of going after Richard Nixon, there was a vote. And Democrats and Republicans worked together. Why Nixon's lawyers were allowed to be there when all the witnesses were being interviewed. Nixon's lawyers were allowed to cross-examine witnesses. Nixon's lawyers and Republicans were actually allowed to call their own witnesses in. None of that is being done in the Trump witch hunt. Only the Democrats are allowed to call witnesses. Only the Democrats are allowed to question. And it's all done behind closed doors, and nobody knows anything other than what Adam Schiff decides to lie and leak to the press. She couldn't pull off a vote because it's not there. The debate stunk, and she had to change the news cycle, the news narrative. So, she blows up at the president, walks out, talks about he's a crazy man, doesn't know what he's doing, he's out of control. The media eats that up, and that's what they start talking about. But those of us who know the word, know the truth, and know where to go get the truth, like on this channel, hath made you free. Well, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hey, please give us a thumbs up and a like. Feel free to share this video to your social media platforms. And make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Smack the bell for my next rant.